transport. Okay, so let's begin. So henceforth, what I'm going to do is at the top right hand side corner, I'm going to write down the topics which we are planning to cover up. Okay, so it will be easier for me, and I'll keep this so that when you are doing your own preparations in the notes, you will be able to understand like what are the topics done in this particular lecture. Okay, of course you will be having the video lectures with you, but for revision purposes, I think video lectures will be too long for you to wait and all that. So anyway, so the first topic for today is interstitial and substitutional impurities. So I'm sure that many of you are all of you are doing this IC fabrication course, right? So one important thing to keep in mind is that, do you know the difference between interstitial and substitutional in the first place? Hello? Yeah.
So interstitial means that are there present in the block itself, but substitutional when we dope, then the impurities that are created at substitution, is that
No, 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 no. So for example,
it's
this is a silicon block. Anybody else with an answer?
Sir, in interstitial, the impurities go in the void, and in substitutional, they replace the atoms in the atom.
Exactly. Very good. Very good. So the whole idea is that, I mean, we have to first of all understand the shallow and deep dopants today. So that will essentially mean what about the choice of the doping materials? So before we come to that, we have to first keep in mind is that how do you choose the material? So first choice would be, we need always remember, like let us talk about the situation of a MOS device, okay? MOSFET. So here you are essentially going to have an oxide. So first and foremost is that if we want to, and all these layers are created with the field oxide, and then we will etch that oxide away. You know all those CMOS process, right? I'm sure Parikshit sir was telling that he has already done in the class. Now, we have to ensure that no matter what oxide layer we are putting on the top for doing the uh, various processes, we have to ensure that these ions should be able to penetrate through the material. Okay, so that means which ions we are talking about? The donors and the acceptors. So that means it can either be, let us say, P plus or okay, B minus. Okay, so please keep in mind it will be actually boron and phosphorus atoms only, but once they get inside, they will essentially become P minus and B plus. So B minus and P plus. So now when we are putting these ions, first question would be, why are we choosing this P and B? That we will come to the understanding of shallow and deep dopants. Okay, why do we particularly choose this phosphorus and boron? Now, the first criterion is that if we want to ensure that these atoms will get inside the material of silicon, so we need to ensure that the size of the atoms should be less than the space between the atoms. First and foremost, right? It has to be. Suppose you are trying to put one atom which is so big, it will never get inside, right? You need to have an atom like this so that it can penetrate inside the void. Now, the thing is, whatever atoms which are essentially being ion implanted, let us say, ठीक है, तो क्या होने वाला है? There will be a huge number of atoms which will essentially be interspersed. In fact, not huge, most of the atoms will essentially occupy spaces in between the silicon atoms. Okay, like this, क्योंकि वहीं से ही तो आया है ना. They have essentially come like that, okay, due to ion implantation. Now these atoms of phosphorus and boron, what they will do? So suppose you are having one phosphorus dot, phosphorus dot, boron vacancy, boron vacancy. Remember, boron is having one vacancy, phosphorus is having one electron extra. ठीक है? Okay. Let's talk about P dot here. Now the problem, what is going to happen is, okay, so interstitial sites or interstitial impurities are those impurities which are in between the atoms. They have not replaced a silicon atom. So this definition, one of you have rightly said. Now, what is the consequence of this? So by default, when you are doing an ion implantation process, in that ion implantation step, almost invariably the atoms, the impurities will occupy interstitial sites. Invariably. क्या होने वाला है इससे? Can anybody tell?
So
What is
defect.
the
So defects.
defects in this sense? This is not exactly defects. These are called traps. Okay, you must have heard the term traps, right? So they will essentially start behaving like traps. So what is the consequence of traps? So let me just keep writing. It will be a note also. So interstitial impurities. That means impurities or interstitial impurities, that means which are in the interstitial sites, whatever, they will lead to becoming traps, and they will, what are they going to cause? They are going to simply consume the free carriers. So that means if there is a boron over here, phosphorus is essentially going to leave that electron, right? But that electron will come and sit in the boron, and it will get kind of recombined with a hole. Boron basically gives one hole, electron gives an electron. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is that the electrons, the excess electrons which are given out by phosphorus, they will not be available for the current. Okay, so uh, either we call it traps, or we can also be more specific and call it recombination traps. Okay, whereas interstitial, spelling is wrong. Correct. All right. So now this is the situation. So what is the way out of it? There is a particular step in the CMOS process which will ensure that all the interstitial impurities are converted into substitutional impurities. Substitutional impurities means uh, this phosphorus will essentially occupy one lattice site.
Sir,
Okay.
annealing.
Annealing, yeah.
High temperature dive.
High temperature annealing. Excellent.
Temperature dive in.
It's annealing only. Huh? Okay. So these borons will essentially come over here. Excellent. Very good response. All right. So once we have this, then these are called the substitutional impurity. That is what we call as doping. So whenever we think about doping, we usually don't specifically mention that it is always a substitutional impurity, which is the meaning of doping, which will essentially give you the concept of doping when you are replacing the silicon atoms. On the contrary, if you are doing an interstitial space, I mean, that's simply traps, that's an hindrance to the current. So this is basically this is called substitution impurity, and that is the concept of doping. Okay. Now we come to the next topic, shallow and deep dopants. So this is the picture in the perspective of a fabrication engineer. Okay, in the real time. Okay, ye ho raha hai. What is happening from a device physics perspective? Whenever you are applying one uh, impurity, if it is a donor, let us say phosphorus, then what it does is it will be having one extra electron, right? So one excess electron means what? It will be it will be easier to ionize the phosphorus than silicon, isn't it? Yes or no? Because it is having one extra. Okay, so it will essentially be easier for phosphorus to simply leave out one electron, and the rest of the electrons will be used for the covalent bonding with the other silicon atoms. Okay, so what it is going to do is, from the band diagram perspective, okay, if you're having an EC and EV, this part is clear to everybody, right? So why EC is coming, how EV is coming, what is the band gap and all that. So this is the case of silicon. What the concept of phosphorus does is, what a donor as such does, let's not talk about phosphorus as of now, is that it will create another energy level. So let me use, okay, it will create another energy level which we will call as the donor energy level. Okay, so something like this. Okay, let it be like that. Here is your EC. Here I will call it as ED, that is the donor energy level. Now, one very fundamental question which I would like to ask you is that, remember, your EI is somewhere in the middle. Okay, this is your EI, that is the intrinsic Fermi energy level. So ED, since it is a donor, it will be much easier to ionize that atom, isn't it? So as a consequence, what will happen is this ED is definitely going to be higher than EI, closer to EC, so that the energy required uh, to basically ionize this donor will be very less. Okay, this is the amount of energy that you have to provide to ionize the donor. So that means uh, there would be free carriers here. Those are the extra 1 electron in case of phosphorus. Okay, so the moment you have doped it, remember, doped means substitutional impurity only. So unless, so the first thing I taught you today was the interstitial and substitutional. So agar ye substitutional hai, only if it is substitutional, only then you can imagine this ED energy level. Okay, so once you have got this ED energy level, clearly it is phosphorus, so that means 1 electron will be there. So if the concentration of phosphorus is, let us say, Nd, how many free carriers you will be getting? Not free carrier actually. So the whole objective is that once you have doped it, you are going to have Nd phosphorus atoms inside the silicon, right? Now these extra electrons which are there, that will essentially ionize if and only if, what will happen? Somehow or the other, this material gets this much amount of energy, which is basically EC minus ED. Shall I call it, let us call it this delta E. This delta E energy we need to have such that all these electrons will essentially go to the conduction band. Okay, so once the electrons leave the donor states, that means donor states यहाँ पर कहाँ है? Like for example, the phosphorus over here. So what we are speaking about here, what we are trying to refer to, is that this electron will essentially leave the phosphorus and move away. Okay, and once the electrons are moving, clearly what will happen? It is going to be P plus. 1 electron lost. But the moment we say that the electrons have left its parent atom, making it into an positive ion, and those electrons are now free to move. Free to move means they are in the conduction band. But when is that possible? Only when you are able to provide the sufficient amount of ionization energy. Okay, now what is the fundamental concept I have told you? That we have to somehow or the other provide this ionization energy. Ionization energy of what? Not the silicon, but the impurity which we have provided. Okay, na? So now, well, once we have provided that, these electrons, free electrons, will be essentially coming to the conduction band, and they will be, aram se, they will be able to move. Okay, because it is conduction band anyway. So the moment you apply any field, it will start moving, giving you current. So Nd will essentially ionize into Nd plus electron. Okay, so now the concept is, what is the meaning of shallow and deep dopant? Shallow dopants mean, so what is the meaning of shallow dopant? Shallow dopant means you can imagine as if this is a surface, EC is a surface. Shallow means this ED is very close to EC, implies ED, or let me just mathematically write it, it will be easier for you to understand. EC minus ED, ये जो distance है ना, this difference in the energy, that difference in the energy which is equivalent to saying the ionization energy, okay, let me remove the delta. Okay, this ionization energy should be in the order of kT. Why? What is the meaning of that? Remember that what is kT? kT is the thermal energy, right? The energy possessed by the lattice thanks to the thermal energy anyway, ambient thermal energy. So this is the thermal energy. So what does it imply? If it is less or in the order of kT, I'm not putting kT by Q here because kT by Q is in the order, in the units of volts. We are essentially referring to energy. Okay, so if it is in the order of kT or less, then what will happen? Just because of thermal energy itself, all the atoms of phosphorus will ionize. Get it, everybody? So that means you do not have to spend any other extra biases or any extra voltage or anything just to ionize phosphorus. And in that case, what it means is, shallow dopant means, so understand the, connect the dots basically. Shallow dopants means ED is very close to EC. So EC minus ED, this difference, that means the ionization of that particular donor should be less than the thermal energy. So what is the thermal energy? We all know 26 MeV at 300 K. Okay, so that means if we are essentially having 26, this is capital K, small k is kilo. Okay, so if it is less than 26 MeV, what does it mean? So at room temperature, we can be assured that all the phosphorus atoms have ionized. All right, so in that case, we can say that if we have doped, it implies if doping is equal to Nd, it implies at 300 Kelvin, that is room temperature, we have small n is equal to, I mean, I'll not call small n, that is a free carrier. We have Nd free electrons. Due to donors. Okay, I must tell you due to donors because there are thermal generation also. We have Nd free electrons due to donors. Okay, understood everyone very clearly? All right. Similarly, if we have acceptors are definitely going to have its energy level somewhere here. Okay, so they are essentially having holes. Okay, so if we want to ionize this, what we need to have? This difference, that means EA minus EV. This will be equal to the ionization energy for the donors, for the acceptors. Sorry, these are the acceptor. This is acceptors. Okay, and here we are having the donors. Acceptor level. Fine. So if you want to ionize the acceptors, what we need to do? Somehow or the other, we have to provide this amount of energy. Okay. So here also, shallow dopant mean, shallow dopants mean, again the same thing. This EA minus EV Okay, has to be less than or at least in the order of, we cannot specifically say equal to, okay, in the order of kT. Then what we will understand is the same thing. If the doping is Na, therefore we have Na extra extra holes, free holes, let me just, free holes due to Na acceptors, यानी acceptor atoms. Just simply let me write acceptors. समझ में आ रहा है सबको? हाँ, clear? So that means, what is the concept of shallow and deep dopants? Shallow dopant mean the dopants are close enough to the either the conduction band edge or the valence band edge such that the difference is less than or in the order of kT at room temp, so that even at room temperature we can we can confirm that whatever is the doping concentration, we are going to have the same number of free electrons or free holes. समझ में आ गया? So now this is the shallow dopants. So whatever theory that we are going to do in this course is always for the shallow dopant. Okay, so that's why shallow dopant concept is so important. यानी कि whenever we say that we have doped with 10 power 16 per centimeter cube, it means that we will assume that there are 10 power 16 extra electrons or extra holes created. Okay, so now instead of a shallow dopant, if we choose a deep dopant, what will happen? Clearly, अगर ये ionization energy is higher than kT, then we cannot always claim that okay, whatever is the dopant, that will be that same number of electrons we will be getting. No, that same number of free electrons we will be getting. No, we cannot say that. There will be certain electrons which will still be lying here. Why? Because even though you have doped it, the temperature is not sufficient enough to ionize all the ions, all the dopant atoms. Got it? Very good. So uh, deep dopant is not part of the syllabus, or we never bother about it. This brings us to the concept of choice of the doping materials. So if we open up the crystal structure, periodic table, just a sec. Okay, can you see this? Right. So if you open up the periodic table, we have always known that this is the, group 4, the silicon, germanium, these are the elements which are of our concern for as semiconductors, right? Then we say that, okay, group 5 and group 3 elements can be used as like impurities. Excellent. तब तो यहाँ पर this is the entire group 5. Okay, why do we preferably use phosphorus? Why do we preferably use boron? Okay, so this here lies the answer. Number 1 is solid solubility. Solid solubility implies that the size of these group 3 element and this, as well as the size of the group 5 element, should be such that they should be able to penetrate deeper into the silicon material. Okay, that is from a fabrication perspective. So that is a practical benefit of choosing these particular materials which are having a better solid solubility in case of silicon. Okay, so that this explanation is from the perspective of Parikshit sir. Okay, IC fabrication. Okay, now from the perspective of an IC designer like myself, or device designer like myself, I will be going into the modeling and device physics. So what we will understand here is not only in addition to the perspective of solid solubility, we are also going to get out of all these different materials, okay, boron, the ED, that is the for boron it is EA, and for phosphorus it is ED, the donor energy level and the acceptor energy level, whatever we have drawn over here. Okay, these are such that they are going to ionize even at room temperature. Got it? So this is essentially giving us the reason why we will choose this particular materials for doping. Okay, so now we will again get back to our third thing, which is the mathematical model for the free carrier concentration. All right, so this is number 3. So instead of spending time on this, I have already written it here. So I'll just explain what I've done. So based on whatever we have studied, we have understood that whether there is doping or not, remember that donors will always ionize into Nd plus and E. Okay, so the number of free electrons will always be equal to the number of positively charged ions, yes or no? Okay, so that means I have written here Nd and Nd plus, but I mean I shouldn't write it actually. I should write it here P. P is better because Nd is the concentration. So if there are Nd number of atoms, they are essentially going to multiply this whole thing into Nd. Okay, so now the point is, so whatever is the number of dopants, I mean the concentration of the dopants, you are always going to have an equal number of electrons or holes. Okay, free electrons and holes. So now what we understand is that we are always going to have charge neutrality. Okay, so that means, okay, so what we will have is the total number of negative charges will always be the total number of positive charges. But remember, this is going to be true only when you have doped the material. So that means intrinsic silicon से आपने extrinsic बनाया है, but you have not applied any biases. Once you apply biases, things will become much more I mean it will become slightly more complicated, and we will see how it leads to carrier transport. So carrier transport में क्या हो रहा है? These electrons, okay, so in carrier transport, these free electrons, free holes, they will start moving away from this locality, okay, in the vicinity of this whatever is happening. So once they are essentially going to be swept away by the biases from the terminals, what will happen? It will essentially open up new space for new carriers. Okay, so those, and essentially what happens, since there is a movement, we will learn carrier transport. Since there is movement, Fermi energy level will no longer be flat. So right now, okay, this is EI. We haven't spoken about the EF as of now. Okay, so before applying the doping, okay, before applying the biases, the Fermi energy level was equal to EI. The moment we have applied the doping, EF will change. We will see that. Okay, so what will happen is EF will change with respect to EI, and that is the reason why it is called EI. That means intrinsic Fermi energy level. So that means Fermi energy level under the condition of intrinsic. That means when you have not doped the material. Okay, and again, when you are not applying any biases, remember all these energy bands are completely flat. So remember, these are energy bands, right? So energy bands mean the slope of this energy band. So that means the gradient of this energy band will essentially determine the field. Yeah, remember the field is equal to minus grad phi. Okay, so I should put a vector over here. If you are speaking about the magnitude, it is simply this in one direction. Excuse me. So the field is the gradient of the potential, right? So that means whenever we are going to have a gradient in the energy levels, you are going to have the field. तब field कहाँ से आएगा? Field will come only when you have applied a bias. यहाँ पर तो हमने bias apply नहीं किया है. So that means this is always equal to 0. So there is no field as of now. Okay, and hence later on we will see in the next class when we'll begin with carrier transport, there is no reason for the carriers to move. We are only concerned about carrier generation. देखो carriers generated हुए हैं. How the carriers have been generated? Due to two things. Number one, due to temperature itself. We will come to thermal equilibrium after a few minutes. And then the other way of creating the free carriers is the ionization of the dopants. Clear, everybody? All right, so let's do a little bit of modeling over here. So from the charge neutrality, we know that the total negative charges will be equal to total positive charges. That means total negative charges क्या होंगे? N plus Na plus. Na plus is the doping concentration of the acceptors. Okay, so acceptors have accepted electrons and essentially they have got become negatively charged. Donors, on the other hand, they have rejected or simply donated their electrons, so essentially become positive charge. So they will essentially add up with the free hole concentration. Okay, so now comes a very important concept. What is that concept? That means the donors and the acceptor ions are the immobile charges. Okay, this is going to be very important when we understand diodes. Okay, and N and P are mobile charges. That means they are able to move freely. So that means whenever you are applying a bias, the only reason that you are essentially having a current is because this N and P are able to move. Na minus Nd plus doesn't move. They don't move. Okay. So now, until now, we have applied the doping, but we have not applied any bias as yet, isn't it? So what, and as I told you, there is no field and these bands are completely flat. Okay. So now what is going to happen is, uh, since we have doped but we have not applied any bias, no bias means it is still under equilibrium. Dekho, that means when you are doping a material, it doesn't hamper the equilibrium. But in addition to doping, there is only one energy which doesn't hamper the equilibrium. We will look into that after some time. So N plus Na minus plus P plus Nd plus, this is from charge neutrality. All we will do is, we know that Pn equal to Ni square under equilibrium mass action law. So we will replace P by Ni square by N, and we will simply carry out this second order uh, equation. Okay, we will solve this and we will essentially end up in these two relations. Now there is one minus over here. ठीक है, यहाँ भी एक माइनस डाल सकते हैं. ठीक है, माइनस है. इन प्लस माइनस में why will we choose plus? Notice that if we had taken a minus here, what does it imply? This bracket, Nd plus minus Na minus whole by 2 whole square, this is the same as this bracket. So clearly, no matter how much this difference is there, Ni square is always going to make sure that the factor in underneath this root is always going to be larger than the factor before. So if you are putting a minus, you are always going to have a negative value for n. Okay, and what is n? N is a number. Okay, what is the unit of n? Everybody knows, per centimeter cube or per cc. That is a standard unit for uh, doping. Okay, doping or carrier concentration. So this is a number. So essentially meaning that you can never have a negative number over here, number of carriers. So as a consequence, you are always going to have a plus. Okay. Now from there, I have simply used this relation and essentially obtained this expression for P. That part is clear. So now what we have understood is that once we have doped the material, we are always going to end up in more number of electrons and holes than the value of Ni. So here I have taken a very generalized model. I have developed a completely generalized model for the free electron. This is the free electron concentration N. This is the free hole concentration P. Okay. So I have developed a fully generalized model for free electron and free hole concentrations given the doping concentrations. Doping concentrations Nd and Na. Generalized क्यों है? यहाँ पर मैंने Nd और Na दोनों को लगाया है. Now let us imagine when you have not doped the system, how will this relations look like? Simply Nd and Na are 0. Cool. आपका क्या रहेगा? N equal to root over Ni square. So that is N will be equal to Ni, P will be equal to Ni, which matches our understanding. Now in this model, notice that if Nd and Na you have doped them equally, okay, then what is the situation? They will again cancel each other out and you will be left with the same Ni value. Okay. So it is essentially the differential value of Nd and Na, which we will call it as the proper doping. So that means if so for example, here I have done a particular case that when doped only with donors, आपका Na minus will be 0. Na is for the accepted impurity, right? The acceptors are 0. So you will notice that small n will be equal to, I have simply removed that Na term, Na variable, and you are left with this. Now, okay, similarly you will be getting for P as well, but I am showing for the electrons. Okay. Remember in previous lectures I have already emphasized that the standard doping levels is how much? 1 ppm. Remember, so 1 ppm is 1 ppm 1 part per million of silicon atom concentration. So atomic concentration of silicon is how much? Remember, it's in the order of 10 power 22. So 1 ppm of 10 power 22, that means 10 power 22 divided by 10 power 6 is 10 power 16. Okay, so if that is the standard level of doping, so Nd plus, suppose we are not bothering about the Na minus. So Na minus we have already seen that if we are doping it with the same concentration, no, I mean this is idiotic stupidity, because you are again going to have the thermal concentration only. Now in a particular, so the main advantage of doping comes in the differential doping levels. Okay, there is a very nice term for this in IC fabrication. I will come to that, and which you have already learned in your VLSI design. So I will connect that dot over here, then you will have a new perspective in VLSI design now. So this is 10 power 22 by 10 power 6 is 10 power 16, which we all know now. So this Nd plus, the donor concentration, donor ion concentration is 10 power 16 per centimeter cube, which happens to be much larger than 10 power 10 per centimeter cube order of Ni at room temperature. Yes or no? So what happens is, if this is true, then in this relation, this is Nd plus by 2. By 2 means what? 10 power 16, मान लो 4 into 10 power 16 hai, that becomes 2 into 10 power 16. So it doesn't change the order anyway. So this 10 power 16 square plus 10 power 10 square. Clearly, you can ignore this Ni square with respect to this Nd by 2 whole square. So for the standard doping levels, okay, you can always have small n approximately equal to Nd plus, sorry, small n is approximately equal to Nd plus for all practical purposes. And specifically for shallow dopants, what we can say is that if it is shallow dopant, we know that all the whatever we had doped the material, the same amount of free electrons or holes it has generated. So that means for specifically for shallow dopants, this is true. N will be equal to Nd. Okay, then what will be the value of P? Clearly P will be equal to Ni square by Nd. Makes sense? Okay, so now let's connect the dots with respect to in VLSI design. Acha, in VLSI design, have you done let us say layouts? Hello,
No,
have you
sir.
done
No,
layouts?
no, no, sir.
Not yet. You have not done yet. Okay, you will learn about layouts in great details. Have you seen the lateral cross section of NMOS? Sorry, CMOS inverter?
Yes.
Hello. Good, good. Okay, so I'll explain with respect to that only. Okay, so what are we going to do? We are going to connect this. This is the body tie. We will connect it to the ground. We will connect this also to the source. Okay, the source and the body are connected to the ground. That means this is NMOS. Okay, then is ये है drain. Okay, so this drain is basically shorted with the drain of the PMOS, and then the source of the PMOS as well as the body of the PMOS, they are all connected to the VDD. Okay, you must have learned this. Now the important thing for us to understand is that we have to make one this region. What is this called? Remember, This entire substrate is,
P well and well.
yes,
N well and P well.
it's
And
not,
P well.
एक ही well बनाने होते हैं, not necessarily all. So this is basically, so the substrate, if it is P substrate here, so that means this region is the N. Okay, so once you are applying uh, the biases, it is going to have the channel at this region. So similarly, when you are applying the biases over here, so this is going to be your VO, remember, okay, these are the VI. All right, so this red boundary which we have done is the N well. Okay, we could have done completely reverse, but it is never done like that because of certain other like fabrication related issues. All right, so if this is an N well, what do we understand here is that this is anyway P substrate, right? So how are we going to have an N well? That happens with the help of this differential doping. Okay, so that means suppose you are having a P substrate. So P substrate is something like this. Okay, so Na minus. So when you want to have an N well, you are going to dope it over and above the doping concentration of the borons in the P substrate, such that the phosphorus concentration will not only neutralize the boron in this region, and it is essentially going to have the higher amount of doping with respect to the substrate. Okay, that's why it is called an N well. The concept of well, okay, comes from this differential doping. Okay, very good. So we have completed this model. Number 5 is limits of doping, which we already know. So this is the standard which we have already learned. So minimum doping should be how much? It's a revision. It's a revision of what we have already discussed in previous lectures, right? So minimum of ND will be at least one order higher than the doping like thermal concentration. So if it is 10 power 10, so what happens is unless you are working at a very high temperatures and all that, your Ni will remain roughly in the same order. So minimum doping concentration will be in the order of 10 power 11 per centimeter cube. I shall not put it. Yeah, this is it. So what is the maximum value of ND? Remember, I am putting ND here. It also it's valid for the acceptor Na. What is the maximum value? One order
10 to the power
10 power
21.
21.
21. That means at least one order lower than the atomic concentration of silicon. Okay. So this is kind of a typical question which is asked in interviews. Okay. So keep that in mind. What are the standard values and this? So in fact, people can even ask you in the interviews, like what is the standard levels, doping levels in modern technology? Okay. In modern technology, I mean, when we are doing the scaling theory, it will become clear why. But just to um, like for the completion of this topic, I will tell you in the state of the art, that means 7 nanometer, like you are using, for example, my smartphone that has like I think I do not know. Yeah, I mean our smartphones are having either Qualcomm processors or what is that? MediaTek processors, right? So MediaTek or smartphone processors are essentially having say 5 nanometer or 7 nanometer technology node. So in the state of the art, okay, in the state of the art, the doping ND is in the order of 10 power 19 per centimeter cube. In the order, okay, 10 power 19 के order में आता है. All right, so influence of the Fermi energy level. So limits of doping is also done. Influence of doping concentration. So in the doping concentration, what we will observe is that we have seen already through mathematical modeling N is equal to ND. Okay, that is the same thing which I have written. However, N equal to Ni, this part is copied from our previous class. So from here, what we get is EF minus EI is equal to KT ln ND by Ni. Makes sense? So I have essentially, I chose only this part of the equation. Okay. So what do we get it? So if we are increasing the doping concentration, ND अगर बढ़ाते हैं, आपका EF बढ़ेगा. Remember, EI is independent of doping. It is an intrinsic Fermi energy level before doping. Okay. So what does it imply? That means EF minus EI is increasing. So when ND is almost equal to, like, let us say 10 power 11. So this is ln 10. Okay. So what do we get? So essentially meaning that ln 10 is around 2.3, right? So it will only 2.3 times of KT, which is practically negligible. So that means EF, as we go on increasing ND, this EF will go on separating out, or let us say in this diagram, EF will start moving more and more. So here is EF. You increase the doping furthermore, it will become like that, and this will be gone. So it will go further and further up. Okay. So your EF will essentially end up with somewhere here. So this is going to be your EF level. If you are using for ED, that means the donors. If you are choosing EA, it will start moving down. Okay. So all that it means is, what is the influence of doping on Fermi energy level? Fermi energy level starts to shift towards the conduction band. Okay. So when ND is very high, so now let us talk about the maximum ND value. What will happen is this EF minus EI will essentially become almost like half of the band gap. Okay, this is EI, this is the EI. The band, half of the band gap is EF minus EI, right? EC minus EI, right? EC minus EI. This is half of the band gap. So if you are, I mean, this EF will essentially start moving and it will essentially come very close to EC. As a consequence, what will happen? EF will be merging with EC. Okay, that is for heavily doped semiconductors. We usually call it as polysilicon. We will look into that poly concept later. Okay, so now the last topic for today is the concept of equilibrium. Okay, because this is going to be important for the next class when we begin with carrier transport. Okay, तो यहाँ पर ये concept of equilibrium क्या है? So okay, so this, let us say, is a system, and there are particles randomly moving around. Okay, now if this is a system, then this system is said to be under equilibrium if and only if the net movement of the particles in any particular direction at any instant of time is always zero. Okay, net movement. So that means there is no overall movement of the particles. Okay, so that means, so if the net movement, so movement essentially meaning the transport, so the net transport of the particles, of all the particles in any direction, कोई भी direction ले लो. Okay, so ऐसा नहीं है कि if the particles are moving along x direction, but if it is not moving along the x direction, it is moving around in the other directions, then it is in under equilibrium. No, no, no. Equilibrium means if the net, so I can write it like this: sum of all the net movement of all the particles, or simply said, net movement of all the particles in any direction is always equal to zero. Net movement means the sum. Okay, sum of all. So this is the definition of equilibrium. This is the equilibrium state. ठीक है? Now sometimes students get, I mean many people get confused with the concept of steady state. Steady state किसे कहते हैं? Hello, बोलो यार. These are very simple. These are BTech level. हाँ.
T is equals to infinity final. That is
Uh, there is no variation in the state of the system as a whole, ठीक है, with time. इसको हटा देते हैं unnecessary words. Okay, so now what do we understand that? Let us understand the difference. ये ध्यान से समझने वाली बात है. अगर हम इक्विलिब्रियम में रखते हैं, so that means there is no movement of the particle in any direction. Okay, so if let's write it like this, no, there is no net movement. Okay, so no net movement of in any direction. So now if there is no net movement of the particles in any direction, that means there will be no variation in the state of the system with time anyway, है ना, because particle कहीं जा भी नहीं रहा है, कोई आ भी नहीं रहा है. So that means if there is one particle moving in this direction, there is exactly some, may not be very close, but there will be exactly some another place in the system where another particle is traversing the same amount of movement. Okay, so that the total movement of the particles in that direction is always zero. Okay, so if that is so, then any equilibrium, so conclusion, number one, every equilibrium state is always steady state. Equilibrium state is steady state. समझ में आया? हाँ? However, every steady state is not an equilibrium. क्यों? Why? Can you give a very nice example of this in electrical engineering? DC. Okay. DC में क्या हो रहा है? You are applying a bias and you are getting a constant current. Cool. So basically there is no variation with time. As a consequence, there is no frequency analysis. Frequency is always zero. Okay, that's why it is DC, direct current. Now if it is DC, but it is a steady state, so that means there is a current, means there is a constant flow of charges in a DC. Okay, so if you are simply let's take the simplest example, DC bias करके, just let's put one source degeneration also. Okay, self bias configuration you have all seen in your BTech, right? So this is basically DC analysis. Okay, you will probably do it in analog IC design next semester. So now in this configuration you are actually doing DC. So if you are, will you get some amplification here? Yeah, you will get an amplification. Okay, but that will be only DC amplification. In fact, whatever analysis that we have done until now in this semester, okay, mostly these are all DC. We will come to high frequency analysis later. Okay, then we will have to deal with the capacitances. अभी तक हमने capacitance के बारे में कोई बात ही नहीं की है. Okay, So in DC, remember all the capacitances are open circuited. So as a consequence, we don't have to bother about it. All right. So no steady state is this one. Okay. So now um, clearly this equilibrium we can also call it as no bias or no excitation, right? क्योंकि अगर आप bias दे रहे हो या फिर excitation दे रहे हो, then basically the electrons will, I mean, carriers will start moving here and there. So essentially you are disturbing the equilibrium, except one particular energy source which doesn't hamper the equilibrium. Why? Which one is that? That is heat. So that means if you are applying a heat energy somewhere, okay, what will happen? Uh, whichever was the earlier movement, that will be increased in the exactly the same proportionate order. Okay, that means the total random motion will increase in each and every direction, because you are simply increasing the kinetic energy of each and every particle inside that system. Okay, so you are not hampering the equilibrium, you are not disturbing the equilibrium as such. Okay, so that is the reason why whenever we are calling it as equilibrium, we are essentially referring it to as thermal equilibrium. Okay, so we usually, I mean, do not use this word thermal each and every time, but remember equilibrium means thermal equilibrium. Okay, all right, so there is a caveat to this. Okay, remember, note, I'll just write here, note, heat energy does not I mean, it can disturb the equilibrium, but that will be a very short duration. I mean, as long as it is unable to adjust that heat inside that entire subsystem, does not disturb equilibrium. Okay, now there is however a situation in which application of heat will generate voltage. What is that effect called? You have learned that. बोलो कोई.
So
Remember, whenever I
thermistor,
am speaking about a system over here, हाँ, थर्मिस्टर में क्या होता है वहां पर?
due to
फंडामेंटल वर्किंग ऑफ
temperature gradient,
थर्मिस्टर.
voltage difference will be there.
हाँ, टेम्परेचर ग्रेडियंट, ग्रेडियंट आप कैसे मेंटेन कर रहे हो?
So difference in
That
temperature. I
means
mean,
yes. So that means here whenever we are applying a heat to the entire system, we are allowing the temperature to essentially spread out throughout the system. Okay, now if you have put it in ice and here you are applying 100 degrees Celsius boiling water, okay, then what will happen? Clearly you are not allowing that 100 degrees Celsius or simply 0 degrees Celsius to spread all around. What will happen? All the electrons will try to, I mean, the electrons over here will be more energetic than the electrons over here. So essentially there will be a net movement of electrons from the left towards the right. Make sense? Okay, so that means this motion will essentially give you some current. Okay, there is another similar situation in which if we use two different materials, okay, we will understand contact potentials very soon. अगर हम दो different material लेते हैं and both these materials are having different thermal properties, now if we essentially maintain uh, the temperature difference, what will happen? Thanks to these two junctions between the two materials, what will happen? There will be voltages which will be generated. Okay, these phenomenon are called uh, Seebeck effect and Peltier effect. Okay, it's not part of this course, so I am not going to go into this. Okay, these examples are examples of where equilibrium is hampered thanks to the difference in temperature. Please remember, it doesn't essentially violate the principle of thermal equilibrium, because thermal equilibrium is speaking about a system. Okay, that means when it is a self-contained system, like as in the case of a lattice, the moment we are speaking about Peltier effect, you are using essentially two different materials. Okay. Similarly, in case of a Seebeck effect, that means you are essentially maintaining a temperature gradient. Temperature gradient हम यहाँ maintain नहीं कर रहे हैं ना. Okay, so they don't violate this, but in those specific cases, you are essentially disturbing the equilibrium because of temperature gradient. So in thermal energy, that is heat, it doesn't, I mean, you will have enough time, as somebody was telling, when T equal to 0, it will stabilize. Exactly. Okay. All right. So that's all for today. And in the next class, we begin with uh, carrier transport. Thank you for joining. Any questions?